We're going to start the show off with a burning question. Should doctors who take bribes from drug companies be given the death penalty? Think that over. Should they be given the death penalty? Should they be sent to the gallows? Should they be sent to the shooting range? Should they be killed by the very drug that they're peddling? 412-4072-PGH, that's the number to text in. You can also message us on the Facebook Live page at River Talk PGH. This is the River's Edge Radio Network. I'm Brian Crawford. Think about that, because we're going to get back to that question about midway through the show with the new Top 5, the new segment that allows us to go through the entire world and bring it right here to Pittsburgh, all through the eyes of Pittsburgh's moral compass, Brian Crawford. Don't forget you can listen to the show through your Amazon Echo. Just tell your A-word, the A-lady as they call her on Awesome Cast, to play the River's Edge station on TuneIn. So I want to begin the show talking about a mouthgasm. Have you ever had a mouthgasm? Almost 10 years ago, not quite 10 years ago, but just about 10 years ago, I had this mouthgasm. I was going to a meeting at this club on the north side. It's the German club. I'm still learning to pronounce the name of it. It's like really complicated, but it's such a great place. I go to this club, the German club. I'm there for this meeting, and they have this food. And I order food. I'm there with a German beer. They have 2 Dunkels on tap, which is incredible because it's hard to find a Dunkel anywhere, let alone 2 Dunkels, which is an incredible German beer. I'm there at the club, and I order this food. In like this explosion happens within my mouth. It was just incredible. It was as if the mouth was, it wasn't like it was on fire. It was just like it was, imagine the most comfortable place in the world, right? Like you're rolling in, I don't know, in fluff material. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like a pure sense of euphoria. I can't really describe what I was feeling nearly 10 years ago when I had this meal at the German club. And I've been on a quest for nearly a decade to join this organization. And I finally met someone. I've become friends with him over the last year, I think. Alan Durand, he was here on this program for Spare Change. And we're just talking one day, and I mentioned this long 10-year quest that I, Brian Crawford, have had to have this meal once again. And he says, oh, well, I'm a member of the German club. I'm like, really? You gotta be kidding me. I almost started pulling my hair out. I couldn't believe that I finally met someone. And he says, I can get you in. I thought, thank God. We're in the middle of talking. It turns out he doesn't have a drop of damn German blood in his body. Not a goddamn eyedropper driplet of German blood running through his veins. Meanwhile, I've got a ton of German in my background. I couldn't get in. I, the German, can't get into the German club, but this guy, who has no German ancestry whatsoever, he gets in. Anyways, he offers to bring me down on a Tuesday. And I'm at work early in the morning. He wakes up. As you know, I work overnight. He wakes up way early. I ask him some questions, and he says, oh, well, you can't wear tennis shoes, you can't wear jeans, and you need a collared shirt. And I thought, damn, because I'm at work, and I'm wearing literally all of those. I had a T-shirt on like this, jeans like I'm wearing, and these cheap-ass $10 Walmart tennis shoes, which I'm also wearing. So I realized I have to go home, I have to change. And I had a few hours to kill, and that, when you work overnight, is playing in the devil's playground, my friends. That's just enough time to fall asleep. So 10 years of waiting, 10 years of anguish, 10 years of salivating over this meal, and I pass out. I missed it all. Well, luckily, he rescheduled with me, and I made it there this past Thursday. And to my shock, at my very first sit down at the bar, a board member came up with the paperwork for me to sign. And now I, Brian Crawford, after a 10-year quest, after being rejected, after being put down, after being unwelcomed by my own people. I, Brian Crawford, am now a member of the German club. And, of course, with the way things go in my 10-year quest, there's just still a little bit longer to wait. Not to get in, but we're sitting there at the bar. And first off, it was, it's December? It was the end of November. They still have Oktoberfest on tap. This place is fucking badass in every way. I couldn't believe it. My heart skipped a step when I saw Oktoberfest, a real Oktoberfest too, sitting there on the tap. So we get a beer. There's this giant buffet, and I nearly tackled someone to get a bite of that incredible, incredible German food. And after 10 years of waiting, 10 years thinking of this food, yearning for the German club food, the buffet was for a private event. It is okay, though. I am a member. I will be back. But thinking of the German club, I really started thinking about my family's background. And I don't know if you've ever looked into your background, but I would suggest you doing it. I spent a few hours on a free trial with ancestry.com, and it completely changed my world, not my worldview, but my worldview of my family. It was crazy. So I didn't really research much into my father's side. I'm going to do that soon. I'm going to re-up and get the plan. I had a free day trial. I used the trial for a day, and then I canceled it so I wouldn't get charged, because I know how I am, and I'll forget to cancel it when the 14 days are up, and I'll start getting charged all this money. So, but I do want to, I'm going to pay them at some point to research my father's side, but this time I just focused on my mother's side, because I learned something about the family name, and I wanted to, one of the family names involved, and I wanted to research how they came to the United States. And in my quest, I learned so much more. So I was told growing up that on my mother's side, everybody came to the United States after slavery had ended, because that was one thing you always heard, is like, oh, well, you know, we weren't involved with any of that. And to be fair, I through my research, I haven't seen anything. I've seen some census, and it was kind of creepy. I saw a census that came out that mentioned free white people, but it had 0 slaves. So thank God, at least with that census. I'm hoping there's nothing like that in our history. But yeah, not everybody came after slavery. In fact, I was able to find people in my family lineage, within certain families, not with the Hilliers, which is my mom's maiden name. They came over from England later. There were some other people that came over later as well. But I did find people who came to the United States. I actually couldn't find when they came to the United States, but they were here in southwestern Pennsylvania, dating back to the 1700s. People in my family fought in the Revolutionary War. I actually saw an application for somebody who applied for the Sons of American Revolution, which was basically a VFW at the time for soldiers who fought in the Revolutionary War. My mind was blown. I thought they all came here later. Then there was another family, because I was told that we're English and German on her side of the family. Well, here on the English side that came from the Hilliers, there was another family that was connected, and I think it was a couple steps back. There was a German family. So really on both sides, her mother's side and her father's side, there is this German connection. And one of the family members, and this was really cool, I found this family that came from Ireland. They were called the Vances. They were Irish, which I had never heard. I had never known that there was an Irish connection in her side of the family as well. Well, I told her the last name Vance, and I told her via the text message, but I feel like her jaw must have dropped as I told her, because it turns out she has an uncle, Uncle Brownie, my mom. His real name isn't Brownie, obviously. His real name was Vance. Really, really interesting. I learned so much. But the most interesting part, and the reason why I originally looked into this, is on my mother's side of the family, my mom's mom, who passed away when she was born, actually, the very next day. Her last name is Reese. It's really Rice. They changed the pronunciation when they moved to the United States. And I did some reading, and Rice apparently is a Jewish German last name. Another connection, which I had no idea. I had no idea that there was a Jewish connection or a Jewish background. And when I looked at the information, it added up, because when I traced back her family lineage and when the first German in the Rice family moved to the United States, it was 1893. And I did some Googling. And in the 1890s, that was one of the largest migration of German Jewish people to the United States. And it obviously was before World War II, but they were still being persecuted in many different ways. And I just think it would be really, really fascinating to sit down and have a conversation with, it would have been my great-great-grandparents, and just see what they went through, see what trials they were experiencing in Germany, what brought them to the United States, what that voyage was like. And I feel like it was so neat to sit there and just imagine who these people were, what they went through. And I just wonder if any of you have ever looked into that. What were some things that you discovered? It was just something that really was just eye-opening and jaw-dropping to me, to learn all of this about my own family. And I thought my mom's side of the family was kind of tied up with a neat bow. I thought going into ancestry.com that I knew everything. And here it turns out I knew very, very little, if anything, at all. 412-407-2PGH. 412-407-2744. That's the number to text. And, of course, the Facebook Live chat as well. We'll be looking at that throughout the show for your comments and your thoughts. Don't forget to take part in the show. It's a lot more fun when you join the conversation. But I'm really excited to join the German Club. And there are so many of these ethnic clubs in Pittsburgh. It's really, really a great treat. So I suggest that you look into that if you have an ethnicity. It's neat to connect. You should be open, and I'm glad that the German Club is open to all people. I'm glad that Alan, who doesn't have even the slightest bit of German in his body, is able to join the German Club, because it's good. You know, you want to be able to share that culture with other people. I think, especially looking at the way the world is spinning now, and the fact that we're turning back to some of these pre-World War I, World War II mentalities where we're so inwardly focused, and in doing it in a way where there is a lot of prejudice, especially like with what's going on over in Europe. And you can argue what's going on in the United States with a lot of these Latin American countries, but especially in Europe, where you have literally governments, you have people in the government through political parties that have been started by former Nazis now in government. In Austria, you have the Alternative for Deutsche continuing to rise in popularity. You have the five-star movement in Italy, which is growing. And a lot of that has to do with these ethnic prides. And I think you can be proud of your background and proud of where you came from, but still be accepting. And I think that's an important balance. But yeah, the German Club, there's so much that these places offer, these ethnic clubs, that are so much beyond just drinking good German beer, which, hell, I'll sign up for that. But they have German language classes there. They have a genealogy class at the German Club, a Stein class, or not a Stein class, but a Stein Club. They have this incredible beer garden with this great skyline view of the city, which I'm really excited to go drink there. But my point is you can go to these clubs and learn so much more about your own background. I think it's definitely worth exploring. And there's this great club that's out there I would look up on Facebook. It's called the Roaming Social Club. It's an actual social club where once a month they go to a different ethnic social club, and they probably go to ones that aren't ethnically based as well throughout Pittsburgh, but there's so many of them. And it's such a great opportunity because you get to go into all of these different clubs once a month and explore for yourself. They all travel from one club to the other, and it's like pretty reasonable to join. But our friend Ben Soltesz, who is one of the organizers for the Deutsche Music Festival, he has headed up that roaming social club. So definitely look into that. I think that's definitely something that is really worth looking into, the roaming social club. So there's a lawsuit going on right now. Just to follow up with our conversation on Friday. If you missed Friday's show, I'm not going to repeat the entire episode for you. All I will say is that Governor Wolf has said that the incredibly high prices at the turnpike are affecting business in Pennsylvania. And I've received some interesting comments after the fact, people saying that the turnpike prices aren't that low when you look at Europe. Oh, they're not as bad as Europe's. This isn't Europe. No. Okay, yes, that might be true, and I've seen this come from multiple people. But look at the surrounding states. Look at the world that we live in. To get from Monroeville to Irwin, one exit, $2.10, and the price is going up again in January. $2.10 without an easy pass. You go across the border to Ohio. The turnpike's better maintained. It has wider roads. It has faster speeds. When you cross the border into Ohio, the seas literally part because the roads are so much better. And it costs just 75 cents. Something just doesn't add up there, does it? Well, apparently the truck drivers agree with Governor Wolf, and apparently the truck drivers have come out with their own lawsuit. They've come out with a lawsuit against the Commonwealth because the high prices of the turnpike are affecting their business. Which I'm not surprised. I mean, it's crazy. I don't use the turnpike. Like, I don't know how anybody does. I don't know how they make any money. I guess if you're traveling a long distance, if you're a truck driver, you have to. But my God, who can afford to take the turnpike? I used to, when I go down to Cal U, I would go, living in Robinson, or even here, I would drive all the way out, go through the 4 pit tunnels, ride through that massive hell, all the way out to 79, take 79 down to Washington, and then cut across rather than take 43 because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it. Who has that kind of money just sitting around like in your car? I don't walk around with a lot of cash, especially in 2018. You've got the cards, you've got the Apple Watch. That's what, if they really want to get in on the technology. Yeah, Easy Pass is a good start. But man, if they can get it where you can just like tap something on your watch, that would be really looking into the future. But the thing is that Turnpike doesn't have any money to invest in that kind of thing. For all of the high tolls, I said I'm not going to get into last week's show, but here we go. With all of the high tolls of the Turnpike, they're in the red every year because Act 44 sends all of their money to PennDOT. PennDOT, who does absolutely nothing to fix the Turnpike. I'm going to hear some of your thoughts. If you're on the show, it's 412-4072-PGH. Let's see. Oh, we've got Mike. Well, we've got a few people in here, actually. Mike Wilkerson has had some great comments. He's here listening to the show. Thanks so much, Mike, for tuning in. Let's see. After 26 years of German Thai, I found out that there is a majority of Irish in the Wilkerson line. Isn't that crazy when you think something your entire life and then all of a sudden like a switch goes off and you find out that you're a completely different person than you thought you were, at least when it comes to the inner workings. And really, I think it's almost good to be surprised in a way because you realize at the end of the day you are who you are, and especially in 2018, your ethnicity shouldn't matter. It matters for fun things like the German club and knowing who you are and where your people came from. But other than that, it doesn't really matter that much. You are who you are. Your life situations are, yeah, if you're if you're one of the Trumps, for example, and your family's able to give you all that money, sure, that gives you a leg up on life, right? Something like that. But outside of that, we're all the same. And I guess my point is where you come from, it doesn't matter as far as the core of who you are as a person. Mike also says, other than having a lager, appreciation for my incredibly white paler, and buying some Irish t-shirts, I don't know that it impacted him immensely. Yeah, and that's kind of my point. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter. I just would love to have conversations with some of these people, find out who they were, why they came here, all of that. And just like to experience what they've experienced. Well, no, not to experience what they've experienced, but to understand what they've experienced. I wouldn't want to experience some of this stuff. You talk about these Revolutionary War soldiers. People grandize these things, right? They make these things out as if they are some magical time. I went to the museum up here in Hampton Township, the Desperation Lands Museum, which was to represent a village that would have taken place after the Revolutionary War as soldiers moved out to the Pittsburgh area because nobody had any money. So they were all paid what they were supposed to be paid from the federal government, Revolutionary War soldiers, but the U.S. currency was completely worthless. So each state now that they're states, they've won their independence, they all came up with their own way to pay these soldiers. And in Pennsylvania, and this is kind of interesting, in Pennsylvania, they gave them land out in the Pittsburgh area, but I believe at the time of the Revolutionary War, Pittsburgh was actually in dispute between Pennsylvania and Virginia. Both areas claimed the Pittsburgh area as their own, but regardless, Pennsylvania gave land out to these soldiers. And at the Desperation Lands Museum, they talked to me about how they would go out with their mattresses. They weren't really mattresses, they were giant sacks, and visibly shake the bed bugs off the sacks so they could go to sleep that night. And you know that the bed bugs are living within those sacks and are still getting bit up every single night. But that's where the phrase, "don't let the bed bugs bite," comes from. But could you imagine every night needing to take your mattress outside and shake off bed bugs that are just crawling across the mattress? Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in those times. It's fun to talk about, it's fun to think about, but my God, I would not want to live in those times. 412-407-2PGH, that's the number, at River Talk PGH on the Twitter, also on the Facebook Live page at River Talk PGH on Facebook. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is the new segment everyone is talking about. It is the Top 5, where I talk about my top 5 stories of the week. That's coming up next. This is Pittsburgh's voice for local music, The River's Edge.
Hey folks, it's Mike Sasson of The Mike Sasson Show. Me and Alex, my producer extraordinaire, looked at the landscape of internet radio and figured if we want to make it, we've got to work at least an hour earlier. Now on at 9 a.m. every Tuesday on The River's Edge, a new kind of radio.
It is the Top 5, the part of the show where I come up with 5 topics in under 5 minutes and discuss them with you right now. Brian. Imagine if I, Brian Crawford, had a studio audience. And if you remember the judging segment, imagine if I brought it back and I could roll on all sorts of cases. Well, Jerry Springer, he's coming back to TV after a short time off, and he is coming back as Judge Jerry. That's right, Jerry Springer rolling on cases in a courtroom, going toe-to-toe, head-to-head with Judge Judy. So we're going to go through the top 5 segments and hear how, and just imagine in your mind Jerry Springer ruling on said cases. Jerry Springer, what an awesome concept. I think he's going to be a fantastic judge. I mean, he has seen it all, right? Jerry Springer. So Genetic Babies, a scientist in China, has successfully altered the genes of twin babies so that way these babies who have inherited AIDS can now stand up to diseases. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like the genetic baby concept? I personally say go for it. If you can change the genes, of course it's causing all sorts of controversy. You're playing with God and this and that, but change the genes of the baby. You can get rid of all sorts of shit. You can get rid of debilitating diseases. You can make someone's life so much better. Now, I am with you when it comes to changing people's eye colors and things like that. Let nature take its course. But if you can get rid of terrible, terrible diseases, I say let's do it. Hospitals in America, in Africa, speaking of healthcare industry, they have come up with a new and robust way to force people to pay their bills. Hospitals in Africa are now holding people hostage, holding people at the hospital, unable to leave their room, unable to see their kids, unable to do anything unless they hand over that cash, unless they pay that hospital what it is owed. There are people who I've heard in interviews on the BBC who have had babies and haven't seen their babies in over a month because they're being held prisoner by a hospital in Kenya where only 10% of the people have health insurance. Speaking of health, speaking of drug dealers, in Boston, a man who works for a drug company has pled guilty to offering bribes to doctors to push doctors to push out opioid pills. So this is something that people have suspected. It has come out that it is true, allegedly, according to this guy's testimony, that through the insurance companies or through the pill companies, they are pushing doctors to prescribe opioids and they are actually giving them bribes. I, Brian Crawford, ask right here, should doctors who accept bribes to dish out medication, should they be given the death penalty? Should insurance companies who push opioids, should the leaders of those insurance companies be given the death penalties? How about the drug companies? Should we not hold them to the same standards as the back alley dealers, since they're the ones that get people hooked and then kick them out to the streets? I want to hear your thoughts on that. I say yes, going forward, if we put the fear of death in them, maybe, just maybe, those people will think twice before pushing those pills. Also, James Bond. I've been watching a lot of James Bond lately. Talk about the worst secret agent who has ever existed. The guy literally goes into the bar and tells everyone working there that he's James Bond. That's the top 5 right here on the River's Edge. Seriously, if you watch a James Bond episode, they have a movie, one of the movies, which is called You Only Live Twice, where they had to kill James Bond off in the movie, give him a fake death, a fake funeral, ship his ass into the ocean, because every single villain on the planet Earth knew who James Bond was. Every single government knew that he was a secret agent. He walked in, they had a car waiting for him in one episode, and here it wasn't even his government who sent the car, it was some other agency. I think it was Spectre, the villain agency in James Bond, because they knew he was coming. They knew before he got there. They know that James Bond is coming before James Bond gets there, and even if he doesn't, it doesn't take long because he walks into every freaking bar in the movie and introduces himself as James Bond. It's like he shoots up a signal flare. James Bond, coming here, watch out. I don't know how he catches anyone. It's crazy. But Jerry Springer, I'm really excited to hear about this Jerry Springer judge show. Zach, would you watch a show with Jerry Springer as judge? Do you think Jerry Springer would be a good judge?
I don't know if he'd be a great judge, but he would definitely have the best cases.
He would have the best cases, yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine that? Actually, he should keep up his other show where he tries to get people together, right? And you've got I look at like the genetic baby thing. Like, to me, that's like Jerry Springer Gold. Who's the father? Well, we don't know because the genes have been edited, and you can have all of these different factors coming out into play. But I feel like Jerry Springer could have his old show and then send those people to the Jerry Springer court afterwards to then handle the situation after the mess has already been created. I can like literally see people charging the bench. That'll be great. You got the guard for the place trying to separate people fighting and throwing chairs at each other and everything else. We can have like surprise witnesses come in. The baby daddy, baby mommy both come in as surprise guests and throw off the entire courtroom. I think it's going to be great. Would you watch a Jerry Springer judge? What are your thoughts on James Bond? All of these topics, they're fair game. Want to hear your thoughts on those, the top 5. I like the new top 5 segment. I think it's much better than the weird news, don't you?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, much better than the weird news. I've been so sick of the weird news. The weird news has been a curse on this show, a blight on this show for a long, long time. Everyone loves it. But I wasn't liking it. I didn't like the weird news for such a long time, but I did it for you. I listened to you people. You liked it, but I posed the question, are you willing to open yourselves up to change? Are you willing to try something new? And to my great surprise, you were. You were. So we did try something new here with the top 5. We're going to make that a regular segment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a terrible crisis going on across the country, the Great Lettuce Disaster. And we're going to talk about Pittsburgh going to the moon. That's around the bend here on the River's Edge.
Are you hungry for science? I'm Carissa Sedor.
And I'm Ralph Crew.
And we host the Carnegie Science Center's podcast, Science News and Cues.
Also known as Snack.
Join us twice a month as we talk about exciting science news, answer science questions submitted by listeners, that's you, and dive deep into a cool topic every episode.
Curious about exoplanets, glowing animals, or even your own poop? Well, do we have the show for you?
We also feature special guests from octopuses to famous YouTube science stars to NASA scientists.
Join us on Snack, and remember,
Stay
hungry for science.
Pittsburgh is going back to the moon. Well, the United States is going back to the moon, NASA, and they're bringing Pittsburgh with them. Yeah, back to the moon. And
Isn't that like 10 minutes from here?
The moon?
Yeah. Like 10, 15 minutes. Like
Not
you
Moon
jump on
Township.
Counts, right?
Actually, we could head to Mars here in Pittsburgh. That's not too long either. I think that's
I don't know where
about
Mars
30
is.
minutes. That's up near Cranberry.
Oh, that's not all that far.
No, and there's so many planets. Cranberry could be a planet. That's one thing I learned listening to Snack. There are so many more potential planets. Like, we've arbitrarily decided that these are planets and these are not. So there was a big... I started a conspiracy, or not a conspiracy, but I started a discussion, rather, on Snack, our Science Center, Science News and Cues podcast, which you can hear every week right here on the River's Edge. Speaking of Snack... Why shouldn't I should just tell you about Snack. Hungry for science? Have a snack. Get the latest science headlines from Carnegie Science Center's Science News and Cues podcast. Find out what's new in science, explore cool science topics, and you can submit your own burning science questions, kind of like if you were on Mercury or Venus, right? Listen to Snack on the River's Edge Wednesdays right here, riversedgepgh.com at 10 a.m. But yeah, I started this whole controversy about Pluto because I said I still consider Pluto a planet. I said I'm never going to give that up. Pluto's a planet, in my opinion. And apparently, Carissa, she agreed with me. She considers it a planet as well. Ralph deferred to NASA, to the science people, or he kind of was like on the fence. But apparently... there's no reason to not call Pluto a planet. It's just a bunch of scientists decided that it wasn't a planet any longer. But it's really not that defined. I grew up with Pluto being a planet. And you did too, right?
Oh, yeah. Pluto's been a planet most of my life.
Pluto's always been a planet. And Pluto will always be a planet, in my opinion. You don't agree?
No.
Why? Why
too
not?
Small, too far away. We have.
But it has its own moons, and actually so do a lot of these other moons.
Just look into the asteroid belt and you'll find bigger things. Bigger,
but why
way more
aren't they
entertaining.
planets as well?
I don't question the motives of scientists
I
that want to
do.
name things after gods.
I am questioning them hardcore right here on River Talk. So
Very
if you're a
fair.
scientist, I would like to hear you defend your point. Defend yourself. Why is Pluto not a planet? But we're going back to the moon, and there's a company. It's called Astrobotic Technologies. It's an aerospace payload company founded about 10 years ago by a Carnegie Mellon professor, and they are going to be involved in bringing us back to the moon. A 10-year commercial lunar payload service contract has been issued to Astrobotic, and it will enable the first NASA payloads to be soft landed on the lunar surface since the Apollo program. So Pittsburgh is really, really coming into its own as a technology company. Thank God Amazon did not come here. I'm still preaching that message. Thank God. That would have been just terrible in a lot of different ways. But I am glad to see that Pittsburgh is still growing organically with homegrown companies as a major force in the tech world. At least I consider it a major force. Some people disagree with me. Some people say that Pittsburgh is not as techy as we like to pretend. But I feel like we got to be somewhere in the conversation, right? Google's here, Amazon's here.
For a city our size, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like exactly, especially for the city size that Pittsburgh is, a mid-sized city, to have all of these different companies trying to come in here. And Amazon, they didn't move their headquarters to Pittsburgh, but they still have a presence here, and they're still planning to grow that presence. I just can't wait until they offer that Prime grocery service. Are you familiar with that?
Isn't that where they'll like day of grocery shipping or something like that?
Yeah, they deliver it right to your house. So you order the groceries, and then the groceries just appear at your house. So you just go online, order it, it comes to your house. Walmart's starting to do that as well, but there's no Walmart around here in the North Hills. We have no Walmart in the North Hills.
We have one on like this side of the city, and it's not even a 24/7.
No,
one.
yeah, it's not. You have to drive all the way up to Tarentum to go to Walmart here, or all the way out to Carnegie. It's actually, I think, quicker to go to Carnegie than it is to go to Tarentum. However,
Probably.
it's a lot less of a hassle to drive to Tarentum.
It's straight highway to Heidelberg.
Yeah, but you still got to go through those scary tunnels unless you go the back roads. But at least going to Tarentum, there's no tunnels. You have that stupid. Okay, here's why our roads suck. You want to get into it? Get into it. Freaking 28 major highway just went through like 20 years of construction, and they still managed to funnel everyone down into a single lane.
Never
Morons. What's this?
Never a good idea.
No, dumbest idea ever. And after all of the money they spent, why in the hell would you design the road that way? That's the only drawback going to Tarentum, is you have to deal with that. But hell, you got to deal with that just to get to Blawnox. It's pretty quick. It's right after the Highland Park Bridge exit. But man, talk about dumb, right? So stupid. So yeah, our roads. Basically, the moral of this week's show is that our roads just really, really suck.
Recurring theme.
Recurring theme, yeah. Terrible, terrible roadways here in Pittsburgh, southwestern Pennsylvania. Really all over Pennsylvania until you get into Philadelphia, where all of the money resides. Actually, I don't know if their roads are that great, but they did certainly get a lot of perks. Hopefully, that's one thing I'm hoping now, because Governor Wolf doesn't live in Philadelphia. He lives in some area that's neither Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. But John Fetterman is now the lieutenant governor. And I remember back when Corbett was running against Dan Honorata, and I thought, wow, we've been taking it in the chin for years by Philadelphia, just pillaging our wallets every year. Bridges are falling over in Pittsburgh, while $10 million libraries are being constructed in Philadelphia. I mean, it was just unbelievable what Ed Rendell did for the city of Philadelphia in spite of the rest of the state. Fast Eddie Rendell, who broke the speed limit all across Pennsylvania in his limousine, funneled all of the money in Harrisburg to Philadelphia. And I thought, finally, we've got two governors from Pittsburgh going head to head. Eventually, now once one of them gets in, finally the gravy train will roll into Pittsburgh, right into the Pittsburgh station. The money will start pouring in. The money will flow in. We'll see better infrastructure. We'll see an expansion of the T. All of these great things are coming to Pittsburgh because finally we have a governor from Pittsburgh. Well, Tom Corbett won. And say what you want about Tom Corbett, and there's a lot of bad things to say about him. He was extremely fair in the allocation of resources. He did not give Pittsburgh the money boost that we so desperately needed. But John Fetterman is a progressive. John Fetterman is a liberal. And I'm hoping that John Fetterman may be more willing to open that wallet and spend that cash frivolously on the city of Pittsburgh. Please, Mr. Fetterman, go. Come on, Mr. Fetterman, spend. Come on, Mr. Fetterman, open that wallet. Bring the money to Pittsburgh. Use your influence. Use your friendship with Tom Wolfe to send that cash to Pittsburgh. Ignore the logic that you learned with your Harvard degree. Throw that out the window. It's all about politics, baby. And if you want our votes, bring in the cash. Speaking of crises, outside of the roads, there's a giant lettuce crisis going on right now. And it is terrible. Romaine lettuce. They're telling you not to eat any of it. I went to Wendy's the other day, and they had a sign on the drive-thru. They said that we cannot offer you romaine lettuce because of the contamination. So people now, oh my God, people now are suffering. People are really, really suffering now because they now don't have romaine lettuce. They have to bring themselves to eat iceberg lettuce. Have you ever had iceberg lettuce? Talk about flavorless. And apparently it's not even very nutritional. Iceberg lettuce, it's completely devoid of any nutrients. Completely devoid of any health benefits. It just makes people feel good. I'm doing good for my body. I'm eating lettuce. I'm eating greens. This is a good thing, right? We like greens. We like vegetables. We like all of those things, right? You know you don't like vegetables?
Not a fan.
Not a fan of vegetables. Do you like vegetables out there? I love vegetables, actually. I love broccoli. I'm a big broccoli eater. Why do they always say that kids don't like broccoli? I always liked broccoli as a kid.
Were you ever a kid?
I was a kid.
I'm convinced you were born at 25.
I don't like candy. I mean, candy's it doesn't taste very good. When we were kids, we'd go out for Halloween. We'd come back with giant sacks of candy, and then a few months later, it was all being thrown away because nobody wanted any of it.
Pathetic.
It just doesn't taste very good, except for chocolate. I do like chocolate, especially dark chocolate.
The things nobody gives out on Halloween?
Yeah, because they don't have good taste.
How do you feel about Raisin Bran?
I like Raisin Bran.
Old.
Raisin Bran is good. What do you like? Like Lucky Charms or something?
Sugar frosted sugar balls in sugary milk.
Ugh. No.
Delicious.
I like to be able to drink the milk when I'm done.
Yeah, it's like it's basically just sugar milk at that point.
Why not just get a milkshake at that point?
Because I think you might be onto something. Milkshake and cereal. There we go.
Well, milkshake is probably healthier than that toxic milk that you're drinking at the end of a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Is that even
cinnamon milk?
Well, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, is that a good one? I do like that one.
Oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is awesome.
So does that bring my age down a little bit?
Nah, not really.
No, I do like.
Everyone likes Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Well, I will tell you my favorite brands of cereal. Not to give cheap plugs, but my favorite brands are definitely. Even the Raisin Bran, the raisins are a little too much for me. I prefer like Corn Flakes. I really love Total. Total's fantastic.
The hell's a Total?
Total, it's like, I don't know. It's like it's like Raisin Brans without the raisins. I like the Corn Chex and the Rice Chex. Those are great. Cheerios, all of the classics.
Those chocolate peanut butter balls.
I do like those.
Mm-hmm.
Those are candy-like, right?
Those are definitely a kid's one.
Those are a kid's one. So see, I'm not that old.
So when you look at Trix, what shape are they? Are they in the balls, or are they fruit? Or have you grown past the part where they're no longer fruit?
I never ate those ever.
That's
I don't
because
think
they're for kids.
I don't think I've ever had Trix once.
Yeah, they started off they were all different little like fruit shapes.
Yeah.
And then I guess years later, somebody thought it'd be a great idea to turn them all into just nondescript balls of different colors, and now they're gonna bring them back to fruit shapes.
Oh.
Because it's stupid, but as you grow older, they're for kids, so they're no longer fruit as you get older.
Yeah, but why can't you just eat them?
I
Why do they have to change them?
Probably to cut down on costs instead of having
Yeah.
to shape them. You can just have one mold for five or six different colors.
That makes sense, yeah. So I know that I in my house, for example, it's always like this battle because my mom and my sister they're fun. They like variety. My dad and I, we're lame. So like my mom buys like all of these different cereals, a wide variety of cereals. And my dad and I go downstairs into the basement back when I was younger or when I spent the night there, and there's nothing to eat. There's nothing to eat. It's always some sort of like it's never just Cheerios. It's always like honey, walnut, oat, whatever Cheerios. Like it's always some sort of variant of Cheerio. It's not an actual Cheerio cereal.
Oh, give me the frosted ones with like the vanilla icing on them.
Ugh. See, that's not. Those aren't
Cinnamon
Cheerios
ones,
either.
the
No.
apple cinnamon Cheerios.
Why don't I? No, I'm sorry. Well, however, I do like cinnamon in my applesauce.
It's like that, but with Cheerios.
That with Cheerios. Do you have a favorite type of cereal?
That might be it.
41. Oh, I was speaking to our friends. 412-4072-PGH. You can text in there. Let's see. Vincent Didiano of the P.O. Vincent podcast, which you can hear every Friday morning at 9 a.m. at riversedgepgh.com. Speaking of P.O. Vincent, I'm into the plugs today. Don't forget, don't get left behind on the movie scene. Check out P.O. Vincent Fridays at 9 a.m. each week. Comedian Vincent Didiano, joined by fellow comedian, friend, and human megaphone, Eric Williams, talk about everything from trailer releases to casting announcements. Each show ends with a movie review of whatever the latest movie is that week. Don't forget, listen to The River's Edge every Friday at 9 a.m. to see films through the P.O. Vincent point of view. So Vincent says that some cake mixes also got recalled because they were being contaminated. Yeah, but that's cakes. Who eats cakes? Yeah. The vegetable, the romaine lettuce thing, that to me is a crisis. I love romaine lettuce. It's like the best of the lettuces. It's the best lettuce out there. People say that kale sucks. I like kale too.
Definitely sucks.
Kale's good. Cucumbers are the best. I think cucumber might be the ultimate vegetable. Well, what's your favorite vegetable? Zach?
Do they come in candy form?
That's sad. Sad. Very, very disappointing. I got a message from Ben Soltis, speaking of the Roaming Social Club. He says they're planning another one. I'm going to see if I can get him in here to talk about the Roaming Social Club before the next one occurs. I don't want to release what he told me because I don't know if it's told in confidence. I don't know if they're officially ironed down with all of the details, so I don't want to spoil that for them. But when we get that information, I will let you know. So starting next week, we're not gonna do it this week because we are running short on time. But starting next week, we're gonna be bringing back the judging segment. Jerry Springer has inspired me. Jerry Springer is the inspiration of this show, and he's inspired Brian Crawford to rekindle his role as a celebrity judge. As you know, Brian Crawford, was handpicked to serve as a celebrity judge for the first Brookline's Got Talent. And it inspired me to do judgments on this show, and I'm feeling the urge to bring back the gavel, to bring down the gavel on this city and restore order to chaos, as only I, Brian Crawford, can do. This has been River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network, riversedgepgh.com. This Friday, I'll be back in studio with Jay Cooper right before the Standard Broadcast CD release party. Don't forget to check out Don Strange's new CD. It just came out. They had a party yesterday. I had hoped to be there, but the pillow won out on that one. I just was so exhausted. but I'm looking forward to checking out the new CD that it came out. You should too. Check out Dawn Strange, Strange Monsters. Check out Strange Monsters on Facebook and get your copy of that CD today. Thanks to Zach Fell. He's behind the board. Thanks for his commentary as well and dealing with us as we roll out new and improved segments. Let us know what you think of the top 5, because I'd like to keep that going. I'm Brian Crawford. This has been River Talk. I'll be back Friday night with Jay Cooper right here at Mr. Small's Theater here on The River's Edge.